Deserve to win meter be damned. We are going to enjoy this win by the New York Rangers.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1227 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, and we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Rangers rallying for a 5-3 road victory against Utah, the Utah Hockey Club, and it's one of those games where you can look at it objectively and come up with the conclusion that you're not so sure that the Rangers really deserve to win this one. Although I would counter that by also pointing out the fact that I felt like the game before this one, the one on the road against the Avalanche, that was a game that the Rangers actually did deserve to win. And of course, they ended up losing that one in overtime. And don't take my word for it. You know, Jared Bednar, head coach of the Avalanche, said the same thing after that game. Didn't think that his team deserved to win. And I know a lot of Ranger fans were feeling like the Rangers deserved the 2 points in that one. This one, I'm not really so sure. You know, there were certainly some things you can nitpick, and we will a little bit later in the episode. But for the most part today, we're going to enjoy this win. Bottom line, Rangers are in a position where they need points. You know, they're chasing a bunch of teams. They are very much within striking distance. But as I've pointed out several times in the last handful of episodes, it's absolutely just like there's a traffic jam trying to get into those last couple of spots in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So bottom line, the Rangers were down 3-2 going into the third period. If they were going to win this game, they were going to have to do something that they have not done all season to this point, and that is stage a comeback in the third period. And of course, that's exactly what they did. They had trailed 3 times up to this point in the game. You know, they're down 1-0, they tie it. They're down 2-1, they tie it. They're down 3-2, they eventually tie it here as well. So give the Rangers some credit for all the flaws and, you know, the certain things that they didn't do well in this game. They stuck with it, they hung in there, and they did rally to get the win. And for that reason, like I said, we're going to mostly enjoy this one. We will pick out a couple of things later that they can certainly do better. But first and foremost, I mean, I mentioned this just a second ago, but how refreshing was it to see them finally get a third period comeback win this year? Just a comeback win in general. That's something that was such a staple of this team last season, and we've seen very little of it this year. But it was also very refreshing at the start of the third period to see the Rangers flip the script on what was kind of a disturbing trend in this game, and pretty much the whole season, if we're being honest. And that's the fact that the Rangers continue to concede early goals, early in games, early in periods. It happened twice in this game. The Rangers give up the scoring opening goal. What was it? Like barely a minute into the first period. They give up in the second period. They give up another goal very early in that one. They were shorthanded for that, but still, you know, it's 2 goals given up early in both periods. So it was awesome. And talk about, you know, needing a goal in this spot to see the Rangers come back in the third period and they themselves score an early goal and to do it shorthanded. They're down 3-2. So, you know, they're back on their heels here because Lafreniere took that penalty, which probably should not have been called, but he took the penalty late in the second period. And now, I mean, I keep wanting to say the Coyotes, the Utah. We'll just say the Utah. The Utah was going to try to, you know, obviously extend its lead early in the third period there with the power play opportunity. But Reilly Smith obviously had other ideas, and just a huge spot here for the Rangers to get back into the game. And again, score early and buck that trend that we've been seeing earlier in the game and honestly throughout the entire season as well. And we got to give Reilly Smith credit, not just for scoring the goal, but, you know, I watched this back, you know, before recording here today, and he made a heck of a play defensively to really set the whole thing in motion. You can't get an assist and a goal on the same one, and this would have been like a third assist if there even was one given out. But, man, Smith, you know, there it is again, the Coyotes. Let's just call them the Coyotes. The Utah Coyotes, they've got the puck along the boards, and Smith goes over and checks his guy, knocks him down to the ice. That separated Utah from the puck, and the puck goes right to Ryan Lindgren. Lindgren, nice play here by Lindgren, too. You know, one of those plays that can kind of fly under the radar. And obviously all of us have kind of, at one time or another, been a little bit disappointed with Lindgren's play this season. But he gets the puck, and he lifts a pass along the boards over the stick of an oncoming Utah player. And it goes behind the net to Schneider. Schneider, you know, circles the net, comes out the other side, leads Smith with a pass through the neutral zone. Really nice pass by Schneider there. We got Smith going in by himself, and he shoots and he scores just an absolute snipe here. And it was funny listening to this, watching MSG, because Sam and Joe, for both of them, you can tell this goal really came out of nowhere, as it did for a lot of us. But, they were talking about how the Rangers really need a big kill here. And then the goal is scored. And Sam just says, how about that? And Joe says, that'll do it. Obviously mentioning the fact that, they stepped up on the penalty kill here. I mean, they were just looking for a kill, and instead they get a shorthanded goal. But, that's also where I think hockey can sometimes be a really funny sport, because I mentioned the Lafreniere penalty at the end of the second period. I didn't think that was a penalty. I mean, I guess maybe by the letter of the law, you can call this a cross-check on Lafreniere. Him and Cole were matched up in front of the Utah net. Cole was down on the ice, and Lafreniere, gave him a little shot. But if that's a cross-check, man, there's 100 cross-checks in every game. So I don't know about that one. But bottom line, weird roundabout way, it actually worked out for the Rangers, because as much as they've struggled this year, the PK has mostly remained a strength, and we know that they are a dangerous team when shorthanded, in regards to the fact that they can score some shorthanded goals. We've seen Mika and Kreider over the years strike for some shorties, and here we see Reilly Smith do the same thing. And, speaking of which, to take it a step further with Reilly Smith, we have seen him recently, I think, step up his game a little bit. He's been playing some of his better hockey of the season. Of course, just about every player has stepped up their game somewhat recently, at least somewhat, because, I mean, this team was just atrocious for a stretch that lasted more than a quarter of the entire season. So everybody has picked it up a little bit. But you look at Smith, 2 goals, 3 assists in his last 8 games. I mean, it's something. You also have to keep in mind the fact that he doesn't get a ton of power play time. He's out there on the second unit, but they don't see the ice all that much. But more than the numbers with Smith, I think you're seeing somebody that we kind of saw glimpses of in the early portions of the season. This guy that obviously has a lot of speed and a lot of quickness. He's a very elusive player. I mentioned this earlier in the season, and it kind of went away for a while, just like the Rangers' ability to play hockey went away for a while. But he just seems like he's a very difficult player to cover, to keep up with. He is just constantly moving in the offensive zone. And I feel like as a defender, you just don't really know where he's going to go next. But he seems to find a way of, just locating the open areas of the ice in the offensive zone. That's not what happened here. I mean, here, obviously, he goes in and just takes a shot, and it's an absolute rifle, and it goes into the net top shelf. But we're seeing a little bit more from Reilly Smith lately. And even though that line, the Mika line, was on the ice for a couple of goals against in this game, they've been picking it up a little bit lately. They've played a little bit better. So that's obviously nice to see. And look, just in general, I mean, it's just awesome to see the Rangers rally. That was the game tying goal. And then, of course, we got the game winner from Kreider. You've got a face-off in the offensive zone that Sam Carrick wins. Carrick had to battle for this puck. He was down on the ice, got it to Kreider. Kreider lets it fly, and a little bit of a deflection off the stick of a Utah player, but we'll take it, obviously. And you're just the Rangers being opportunistic and not overthinking things and getting the puck at the net, which actually leads me pretty nicely into what I want to talk about in the next section of today's episode. The Rangers in this game, really all 4 goals, and we're not counting the empty netter, the 4 goals, traditional goals, I guess we can call them, they all came as the result of the Rangers honestly just not overthinking things and just getting the puck toward the net, not looking for that perfect pass, that, highlight reel goal. They can fall into that trap every now and then of looking for the perfect play. They didn't do that in this game, and it worked to their advantage, and we're going to elaborate on that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has got you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Want to go ahead, give a shout out to the everydayers. You guys are the best, always coming back for more, even through all the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys that we know as New York Ranger hockey. So in our next episode, we've got a back-to-back this weekend. Rangers on Saturday going to be at home against the Blue Jackets. Then on Sunday, going to be on the road against the Montreal Canadiens. So what we'll do either Saturday night or Sunday morning, we'll have an episode covering the Blue Jackets game. And then after that, we'll move on to the Canadiens game. Want to have one episode each for both of those games because those are big games for the Rangers. Those are two teams that the Rangers are trying to chase down in the hunt for, a wild card spot or at least climbing the standings in general. Both those teams right now, a little bit ahead of the Rangers in the standings. So big games this weekend for sure. And we'll be back here to break them all down. But for right now, let's keep the focus on this game. Once again, I talked about this just a second ago. The Rangers, the theme of this game when it came to their offense and their ability to score goals is the very simple fact that the Rangers didn't look for that perfect play. They just got the puck at the net. They took their chances. In some cases, got some traffic in the crease, created a little bit of chaos there. Certainly the first two goals, that was definitely the case. It must also be said here, because I know some people are going to point this out, and that's fine. It must be said, though, that the Rangers did benefit in this game from going up against a goalie who very clearly did not have his A game. I want to get the pronunciation right. Vejmelka, I believe that's how you say it. Vejmelka has had a very good season for Utah. His numbers certainly back that up. But I would think, not knowing him personally, obviously, he would probably want at least a couple of these back. So the Rangers did catch a little bit of a break in that regard. But when that happens, when you're up against a good goalie who, for one reason or another, just doesn't seem to have it on this particular night, you owe it to yourself to take advantage of it. And I think the Rangers did that in this game. Something else we got to keep in mind here, because I'm going to make this point that the Rangers kept it simple, and that obviously worked to their benefit. When the Rangers were in their scoring funk, which again lasted a long time. I mean, the Raiders weren't doing anything well for, again, a stretch that lasted more than a quarter of the season. And that's how they went from at or near the top of the Eastern Conference standings to now completely out of the playoff picture. I mean, they're within striking distance, but if the season ends now, the Rangers do not make the playoffs. So one of the biggest problems during that entire stretch there was nobody wanted to shoot the puck. Everybody was too passive. We had all this perimeter passing, certainly on the power play. That was very apparent. And guys just not being aggressive. Every now and then you got to let the puck fly. I realize that it doesn't do you any good to take nothing but low, dangerous scoring shots, over and over and giving your opponent a reprieve. Maybe the goalie hangs onto the puck and they're able to get some tired skaters off the ice and bring some fresh guys on. So that's not really to your advantage if that's your approach all the time. But at a certain point, man, just get the puck at the net, get a little bit of chaos in the crease, and try to get a couple of these blue collar goals. And I think we finally saw the Rangers start to do that in this game. You've got the first goal by Artemi Panarin. I mean, that's pretty much what happened here. There's a stat that I'm going to read in just a minute that's going to blow your mind. But for right now, let's just break down the goal here. You get a dump into the offensive zone, and I think Trocheck deserves kind of an unofficial assist here because he pressured his guy. Trocheck never actually touched the puck, but the Utah defender tried to play it around the boards, and Lafreniere stepped up there on the forecheck, intercepted it, and then dished back to the center of the ice to Panarin. Panarin's able to score from some prime real estate there, so that was great to see. That tied the game at 1-1, fairly quickly after Utah had made it 1-1. But I have to share this stat with you guys. I came across a tweet from Johnny Lazarus this morning. I think he sent it out last night. But Johnny basically cited something that was put out there by Steve Valiquette. He might have mentioned this Valiquette on the the intermission report or wherever it was. If he did, I missed it. But apparently, and again, nothing can prepare you for this stat. Everybody should probably be sitting down right now. If you're driving, you might want to pull over for a quick second. So this goal by Panarin here, apparently, and this is per Valiquette, this goal was only the second goal that the Rangers have scored all season off of the forecheck, which is absolute lunacy. You should have lucked into a couple more of those by this point. But that just kind of tells you that the Rangers' forecheck is clearly not a strength. Not that I needed to explain that to everybody. You guys watch this team just like I do, but that really puts it in perspective when you hear a stat like that. And the other goal the Rangers have scored off the forecheck this season was scored by Johnny Brodzinski. And that was the play, if you remember, against Montreal, where the Canadians basically just fell asleep. They all thought it was going to be icing. And we had, I think it was Edstrom. He zips into the offensive zone, goes and tracks down the puck, nullifies the icing, passes in front from behind the net to Brodzinski. Brodzinski scores from the doorstep. But that stat is just absolutely wild to me. I mean, again, I knew it was a problem. I knew it was certainly a weakness of this team, but they never score off almost literally never score off of the forecheck. I mean, what is that? Like once every 22 games that they're on a pace for right now? So nice to see it happen at least once, I suppose. But then we have the second goal scored by Kaliev in this game. He gets his first point as a member of the Rangers, so props to him for doing that. The puck is in the corner and just kind of in that area of the ice there in the offensive zone for the Rangers. You've got Kreider, Chytil, and Kaliev. To their credit, all three guys, especially Chytil and Kaliev, really battling for the puck here. So this turns into kind of a blue-collar goal. It's kind of a 3-on-3 battle for the puck. Like I said, in the corner, kind of came more toward the center of the ice, kind of into the left face-off circle there. And the Rangers eventually get control of it. We get the puck being moved back to Vakanainen at the point. Vakanainen then passes up to Chytil. Chytil's along the boards here, and Chytil decides to shoot the puck. And this is not like prime real estate, like the goal that Panarin scored. But I think Chytil, probably buying into that idea that let's just put the puck on the net and let's take our chances. Maybe he can surprise the goalie with a quick shot and get it past him. And even if not, maybe there's a deflection, or maybe what happens is exactly what happened on this play. The save was made, but it kind of trickled through, and you got Kreider and Kaliev both there on the doorstep. Kaliev able to stuff the puck home, and like I said, he gets his first goal, his first point as a member of the New York Rangers, so props to him for that. For Kaliev, that was his first goal since March 28th, so almost a calendar year. Now, granted, he was hurt for a whole bunch of time this year for sure, but he gets the goal there. And again, just back to this theme that we're going for here, just a very simple goal. There's nothing, there's no razzle dazzle. There's no like tic-tac-toe kind of a goal. There's none of these like fancy passes. There's no passing and just waiting for the perfect shot. No, Filip Chytil was on the boards, put it toward the net, took his chances, saw he had a couple of teammates there probably, and it worked out. Again, a little bit of a soft goal. I'm sure Utah would have liked that one back, but good things can happen when you put the puck in the net. Case in point, the third goal. We already covered this one, so we don't have to spend too much time on it, but this was the shorthanded goal scored by Reilly Smith. Again, he's skating into the offensive zone. Now, he's shorthanded here, so, the options are kind of limited anyway, but, credit to him for just taking a quick shot and taking his chances with it. This was an unbelievable shot by Reilly Smith here. Beats the goalie, top shelf, blocker side, almost a bar down. See, I don't think it quite caught the crossbar, but it was pretty close. So good stuff there for sure. Again, just a case of getting the puck at the net. Nothing too fancy, not looking for that perfect play. Again, not that you're going to do that when you're shorthanded. Your options are limited, and you can only commit so much to offense when you're shorthanded, but you get the idea. Again, this is just a guy putting the puck at the net, and something good happens. And then, of course, you get the fourth goal, and this happens because of a face-off win by Sam Carrick. Carrick, man, he's a beast on the dot. We know that. I should have looked up his percentage before we started here, but the last time I checked, it was around like 60%. He battled to win this puck. Kreider picks it up and takes a shot. And yeah, you know what? Little bit of a lucky break for the Rangers because Utah had a defender deflect the shot from Kreider. But again, the theme here, good things happen when you put the puck at the net. You look at the 4 goals that the Rangers scored here, again, not counting the empty netter, and all 4 of them just a result of getting the puck at the net, and in a couple of cases, a couple of blue-collar efforts in deep as well. Good stuff, man. Stick with this. The highlight reel goals, those will come. The Rangers have, obviously a lot of talent on this team, and we've seen these guys link up for some beautiful goals, and they'll be there. They'll happen naturally, but I think your default setting, if you're the Rangers right now, especially after what happened in this game, is get the puck at the net. That's the biggest thing that the Rangers can do to help themselves right now. And again, goalie did not have his A game, but I like to think that maybe the Rangers were consciously taking advantage of that. They saw a couple get through him early. There was even a goal that Chytil almost scored where he shot from pretty far away and it went through the 5-hole and then went just wide. That was early in the game. So hopefully the Rangers are noticing this and this becomes the strategy. They adjust as the game goes on. Okay, this guy really doesn't have it. Let's test him. Let's just blitz him with shots as early and as often as possible. And that, seemed to work. Hopefully that was what the Rangers were, consciously going for in this game. But I got to mention, so the last goal, the one that was not scored, we got to talk about Igor Shesterkin here, right? This was unbelievable. He came pretty close, and this is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen this week, this month, next season, the season after that. Sooner or later, Igor Shesterkin is going to put the puck in the net. He's been very close on no fewer than 3 occasions. Somebody on Twitter pointed out that all 3 times, Igor, when he's been really, really close in these situations, all 3 shots have gone a little bit to the left of the net. So maybe Igor's got to adjust just a little bit, figure out a way to go to the right, maybe aim a little bit to the right of the net, and then he'll hit it dead center. Maybe that can work. But, man, this would have been amazing. And it would have been huge, too, because this is a situation where Rangers are up 4-3. The game before this one, we saw Colorado pull its goalie. They get the game-tying goal late. We certainly don't want it to happen again. And when Igor got the puck here, it was a long dump in from Utah. They put it right on net. Igor gets the puck. And there's really nobody in front of him. The coast is clear for him to take this shot. And that's exactly what he does. Puts the puck down, takes the shot down the ice. And I thought this might have been it. We saw a Utah player kind of like waving his stick at the puck, as it was going by. But yeah, I don't think the Utah player made contact, but it just went a little bit wide to the left. I mean, what do you guys think? Maybe like 4 feet on this one, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, somewhere in there. But man, that would have been amazing. And look, a goalie goal is always amazing, but this would have been something else because this would have obviously sealed the game. Up by 2, it's obviously still an amazing feat. But to do it up by 1 and actually like really have it mean something where you basically clinch the win with it, that would have been awesome. And we know how tough it's been for the Rangers this season. We know how badly they've struggled for long stretches of play. The vibes are better lately. I think that's pretty obvious. Just watch these guys play lately and watch them go about their business, watch them interact with each other. Things have picked up. But man, to get that moment there, to have a goalie goal by Igor Shesterkin, these guys would have gone nuts. And that's all anybody would have been talking about after the game was over. So shame it didn't happen, but like I said, I think if you want to see Igor score a goal, just be patient. Again, I don't know when it's going to happen, but he's going to get one sooner or later, and it's going to be a lot of fun when it does happen. But in just a second, going to shift our attention to a couple of the negatives from this game, maybe some things you can nitpick. Again, I don't want to crush these guys because they figured out a way to get it done, and like I said, we got to take points anyway. We can get them right now. We did enough, all of us. We all crushed the Rangers enough through their bad stretch, so the fact that they could maybe get outplayed and still figure out a way to win a game, that's mostly a good thing. But we will talk about a couple of things that, maybe we didn't like from this game and that the Rangers can do better moving forward. And we will do that in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode by taking a look at a couple of things that the Rangers can do better, some areas where there are rooms for improvement. I really, really didn't like the Rangers' first period in this game. And you might hear that and look at it and think like, oh, well, it was 2-2. They came back a couple of times after being down. Yes, but I think the Rangers largely got outplayed in this game. It's another one of those games where the Rangers were just kind of asleep at the wheel when the game started. Igor was having all kinds of problems, and both Joe and Steve talked about this. For Joe, it was obviously during the game, and then Steve during the intermission, where he just didn't have his footing. He got moving in one direction and couldn't move back to the other direction. And that's just so unlike Igor Shesterkin. Although, to put a positive spin on that, I think certainly we got to give Igor some props for eventually figuring it out. And the last 39 minutes, I think it was, scoreless hockey for Igor. Pitched a shutout from that point on. So good for him hanging in there, getting the win, making some good saves in this game. But I just didn't like their first period because you watch the Rangers and you watched Utah at the start of this game. They both were in almost identical situations coming into this one. Both teams were either 5 or 6 points out of the playoffs and having to jump a couple of teams that are in front of them. And you wouldn't know that from watching this game. You'd know it from watching Utah in the first period. They came out, they were flying. I mean, they're a fast team, so they're always going to look fast. But yeah, they came out flying. They came out desperate. They were winning all the puck battles and whatnot. They were certainly out-possessing the Rangers, out-chancing the Rangers, out-shooting the Rangers, basically just outplaying the Rangers in every facet imaginable. And the Rangers, to me, just looked a step slow. They looked like they weren't really ready for the start of this game. Again, it's nice that they came back. But, man, I did not like the Rangers' first period at all. And I felt like they were very, very fortunate to go into the locker room, tied at 2-2 when the first period eventually expired there. Way too many instances where Utah, and granted the Rangers cleaned this up later, but in the first period, I mean, my God, these guys, the Rangers, I've used this analogy in the past. The Rangers did everything but roll out the red carpet for Utah's skaters as far as getting to the front of their net. Guys were coming in on a rush, and the Rangers were in position, but nobody provided any resistance whatsoever. They were going through the Rangers like, Swiss cheese or whatever you want to call it. Again, the good news here, to put a positive spin on this, is the Rangers did tighten this up later in the game. You look at the shots on goal, which doesn't tell you everything, but I think it does give you an indication of how this game went. For the game, Utah won the shots on goal battle 31-25. But keep in mind, Utah had 15 shots on goal in the first period, then just 8 in the second period, and then after that, just 8 in the third period. And keep in mind, in the third period, Utah was either tied or down by a goal for the vast majority of the entire period. So the fact that the Rangers really clamped down on them then when it counted the most, that's very, very impressive. The Rangers at that point were playing with some desperation, the kind that maybe they lacked earlier in the game. But there was a stretch, and Sam and Joe pointed this out too. Utah went about 10 minutes without getting a shot on goal, a single shot on goal in the third period. And again, this is during a time in the game where they're either tied or down by a goal. So for the Rangers to really shut things down there, especially after struggling so badly early in the game, That's very impressive. And I like to think that hopefully that was a point of emphasis from Laviolette, the coaching staff, maybe even the leaders on this team. Crazier things have happened. Hopefully, though, that was a point of emphasis during the first intermission there. Another thing, as far as things that didn't go so well for the Rangers in this game, tough night for Mika Zibanejad. He was on the ice for all 3 of Utah's goals. Now, one of them was when Utah had a power play, for whatever that might be worth to anybody listening to this, but just not enough defensive resistance from Mika Zibanejad. And the first goal that Utah scored was due, at least in part, to a neutral zone turnover by Mika Zibanejad. We had a situation where Morgan had the puck along the boards in the Rangers zone, made a perfect pass to Mika Zibanejad in the neutral zone, hit him right in stride, put it right on the tape. Mika heads up the ice, and Utah basically just picks his pocket. They get control of the puck, and the Rangers never got it back. About 8 or 10 seconds later, a couple of passes, puck is in the net, and Utah's up 1-0. So it was not a banner night for Mika Zibanejad. I'm not going to crush him because we've all done it at one time or another this season. We've all been tough on Mika at one time or another. And, the Rangers are playing better recently. Mika, he needs to be better than he was in this game for sure, but Mika has played better. And I realize that's a low bar to clear because it was rough for Mika Zibanejad for a long time there, but he is doing better recently. So the fact that the Rangers won, the fact that he's played a little bit better, we'll give Mika a little bit of a break. But you hope, obviously, that he plays a lot better in the next game because that's a big, big game between the Rangers and the Blue Jackets. And the Rangers really need to win that one too. And hopefully Mika can get the job done there. Another thing that certainly I don't think any of us could have possibly liked in this game, the 5-on-3 that the Rangers got, this was brutal, man. Like they at least had possession of the puck, but that's not exactly a glowing accomplishment when you've got a 5-on-3 advantage. You should have possession of the puck, but a lot of passing around the perimeter, and for whatever reason, I credited them for taking shots and putting the puck at the net and other places in the game. The 5-on-3 was like the one time where they just didn't want to do it. A lot of passes here, and again, not to pile on Mika, but he had a golden chance to take a shot from a high danger scoring area. I believe he was right around like the inside of the right faceoff circle there, so kind of near the slot area. And he got the pass from Lafreniere. Lafreniere was along the goal line, and Mika just passes back to Lafreniere. Now, maybe he's thinking that, Lafreniere's going to make another quick pass and somebody's going to be open on the other side of the net. But my God, take the shot, Mika. Come on, man. And Mika's done a better job of that recently. He has been shooting more often, but man, he's got to let this one rip. I think he had a golden chance to score and just didn't take advantage of it. And that was kind of a theme of this 5-on-3. And the 5-on-3 lasted for about 1 minute and 15 seconds. So there was plenty of time, but their shot selection was just very strange here. Guys forcing shots and then guys who have wide open shots and they're not taking it. That was just kind of bizarre to watch. And they were down by a goal at this time, so they really could have used one, but obviously it didn't happen. And fortunately, it didn't come back to bite the Rangers because they did go on to win this game. So, mostly good things, mostly positives. Again, was not perfect in this game against Utah, but I think we can feel good about the fact that the Rangers do have points now in 6 straight games, 4-0-2 in their last 6. What is that, 10 points out of a possible 12? And just the fact that they can win a game where they're not the better of the two teams on the ice, I think deep down that's a positive too. You don't want it to become a trend where you're pulling a rabbit out of the hat to win games, but I think for one night it's okay. So take the positives out of this one for sure. Okay, so I mentioned a second ago, wrap things up here with a couple of final notes. No more late games. That's a good thing. That for most of us. I know some people prefer these late games, but it's gonna be a long time before the Rangers have any more late games. I think it's like in March, they have like a 3-game road trip where we get a bunch of 10 o'clock and 10:30 starts and, maybe a 9 o'clock in there too. But they'll be back to, normal start times for the most part going forward here. Also just wanted to mention, basically just throw out an idea. This Rangers Jackets game that's coming up here on Saturday, it's going to be happening tomorrow. Is this the biggest game that the Rangers and Blue Jackets have ever played against each other? I think it honestly might be because they've never met in the playoffs, so that eliminates that right away. The Blue Jackets are trying to make the playoffs for what feels like, the second time in their existence. I think it's been more than that, but they don't make the playoffs very often, and they do in the history of their franchise. Their only playoff series win was the one that they got against Tampa, that massive upset from, 5 or 6 years ago, however long it was at this point. And you've got a situation here where the Jackets are in a playoff position right now. The Rangers are trying to track them down. It's a big game for both teams. I think this is going to be the biggest game, at least going into it. We don't know what's going to happen after that. But going into this game, we can call this the biggest game the Rangers and Blue Jackets have ever played against each other. So it's going to be fun, big game, and preferably, I think we'll take a win anyway. We can get it, but you want to see the Rangers. You really want to see them win in regulation, because then they get the 2 points and the Blue Jackets don't get anything. And you obviously make up more ground than you would if it went into overtime, because the Jackets will get a point in that scenario. But obviously, we'll take the win anyway we can get it. Yeah, and just a big stretch coming up for the Rangers. I mentioned the Jackets. They're also going to be playing the Canadiens. Canadiens are hot lately. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10 games, if you can believe that. They're playing the Senators. Senators have leveled off a little bit, 4-4-2 in their last 10, but they are ahead of the Rangers in the playoff standings. And then home against the Flyers. Flyers have leveled off too, 4-4-2 in their last 10. But man, I mean, all four of these next four upcoming games are all against teams that are currently ahead of the Rangers in the standings, but are certainly within striking distance for the Rangers. They're not like massively far ahead. We're talking like 2 points, 4 points, 5 points, whatever it might be for all these teams. So these are massive games, and honestly, they could shape what the Rangers end up doing between now and the trade deadline. This could convince the Rangers to be, at least tentative buyers. Maybe you don't go nuts, but you buy some players and you take advantage of that newly created cap space. But if they struggle, if they lose all these games or lose most of them, then I think at that point you're looking at a situation where the Rangers are very likely going to sell at the deadline. So there's a lot on the line coming up, and it starts certainly on Saturday here against the Blue Jackets. Huge game, obviously, for both teams. But we can call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17, @jchik17, and definitely subscribe to the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.